Still having problems? Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now?
There's a delay, so I have to wait for it to catch up. But no, it hasn't been fixed yet.
Well, everything looks fine.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, we're good now?
Should be good.
Yay! Okay. I know there were a few people who were planning on stopping in. You're about to hear me type very loud. Um, because I like loud keyboards. If I didn't have a loud keyboard, how would you know I'm working? Okay. Yeah, the best time to ask me a question is right when I tell you I'm about to start streaming. That's the perfect time. You know what? Come and talk to me, my dudes. Oh, goodness gracious. And apparently I can't spell either. To answer that question, I'm about to answer that question. No account needed unless you want to comment and or check my grammar. Everybody wants to check my grammar, right? Yay! Oh, hi Talia. How are you doing, sweetheart? Long time no see. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting night. I've made a promise to respond to a specific event, and then I'm assuming that won't take all night, and then we'll get to the rest of dating in the time of COVID. You want to see something cool? This is hilarious. I love this. Isn't that great? Yeah, that's my very unfortunately colored water cup, which I'm gonna need a lot of tonight. All right. Oh, I need to go up here, and yeah, and because we are still waiting for everyone to possibly show up, I am going to take a moment to also fix some things I didn't have a chance to do earlier. I was actually completely... Hey, Dalek, how are you doing, sweetie? It's an invisible cup. I was actually laid up really, really bad for most of no, I'm sorry, all of Saturday and Sunday with a really, really bad headache, the kind that you just don't bounce back from. So a lot of the work that I was hoping on doing for you guys over this weekend did not happen. So instead, you get to see me wing it in more than one way. So to give you guys another little thing, and like I said, we're gonna wait a few minutes because a lot of people who probably never have used Twitch but might be just a little bit curious about what I have to say, they are going to be, in theory, showing up soon. And of course, well, I mean, now that you mention it, yeah, my hair hasn't decided what it wants to be today. Grown up is not apparently one of the options. Right, straight to my hair. Yeah, I was trying so hard to get it to do tricks and it just wasn't working, which I guess is actually appropriate given the topics of the evening. Um, I need to just like tape this down or something. I don't know. So we've got Talia, we've got Dalek. I don't know if Panda's going to be joining us yet. Um, yes, and I don't know, maybe six of one, half a dozen of the other. Hey, we have an excellent bit rate. That's awesome. I totally forgot to edit the stream info. Well, you guys are in for a surprise. Let me tell you. Yeah. Like I said, we're just going to give them just a couple more minutes because I did spring it on them last minute. And if they didn't want to or didn't manage to find a way on here, well, I guess they could just watch the stream later. So to reacquaint you with the fun bits, yeah, this is it's been a very interesting weekend. That is completely true, Dalek. Everybody needs this type of advice because it's not just about dating apps. It's also about having an honest and successful relationship, which, interestingly enough, brings us to today's milestones of suck. So, my ex-husband died this past weekend. And first of all, I didn't find out until yesterday. He apparently died sometime Saturday. But it was very. I got teary. I actually had to cry for a little bit. It was oddly enough a shock, but also a shock in that it should not have been a shock. He was one of those people who had like every possible bad result of every horrible thing. Yeah, it's okay, Talia. I'll get to that in just a second. I mean, sorry to hear. Yes, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a little hard to process for a little bit, and this is where we're going to get to the gist of this. Because he had a long history of alcoholism and drug addiction and abusing his body in all kinds of unique and creative ways. And we have no idea definitively how he died. Could have been his heart giving out, could have been his liver, spleen. In all fairness, it could have been an OD, it could have been just giving up the ghost, who knows? But what was really interesting is when I found this out, of course, the first thing I did is I called the kids. And Faux Twin, the younger, was the stone that he normally is. Yep, that's what happened. That's the thing. We're doing this. Yes, I'm fine. I have some feels, maybe, but whatever. And I know he deals with the things in his own time and in his own way. It's almost disconcerting, really. And then Faux Twin, the older, was flipping out, but not flipping out, but having a lot of feels. Had a much more tumultuous, conflicted relationship with his father. Had actually lived with him for a period of time, had got to know him for a little bit, and had found out that he was not a pleasant man in some contexts. And that's really where we're going to get to the upshot of what I'd like to talk about. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, One of the first reactions that I got from a lot of people who knew me and knew him from back in the day was, are you relieved? Are you, weight off your shoulders? I'm like, that's not, I mean, first of all, I understand. Um, but that's, I mean, maybe, but no, not really. Uh, you know, and understand, I am not one to canonize the dead for no good reason. We don't do that. Oh, he was so great. Oh, he was such a good man. Yeah. No, we had a monumentally crappy, shit-filled dung taco of a relationship. It was bad. It was very abusive. It was very lots of the drug and alcohol, playing into that. And but why did you stay so long? Because I came from a very weird and poorly trained upbringing when it comes to understanding what healthy relationships look like. Autistic, for instance. So the context of what makes a good relationship was never something that was explained. It's one of the reasons why I am so adamant to analyze and isolate it in ways, especially for people who are like me, who don't get subtext. Subtlety, what is that? That's not a thing. It's, if you don't outline it and define it very, very specifically, what do? What do? Hmm. Oh, just try harder. You're going to hear me go on literally for hours, cumulatively by the end of this, just on try harder. Mm, mm. Yeah, I don't know what that is. And yet my whole life, hey, try harder. Try what? What is try? Explain the process of the try. Um, so I didn't have, a really strong outline. I didn't have a strong understanding for how to do this relationship thing. Oh, person like me, and we do the sex. Now, was I supposed to feel something? Was he supposed to feel? Was there supposed to be a response in there for the things? I have no idea. But um, what I did learn from that experience is that you can give a shit about someone, and I don't want to say that love wasn't part of it, because that's not really fair. What I want to say is that you can have the best intentions and still fuck up literally everything, like beginning to end, gloriously. And we totally did. Because I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that people who suffer abuse deserve the shit that they go through. Um, but I certainly think that there's a point when you need to figure out what you're doing to trigger your partner so that you can at least avoid that long enough to GTFO. I did not figure that out for a while. However, I did get two gloriously beautiful sons out of it and two gloriously beautiful children. Same thing. I mean, they're just amazing. Intelligent, passionate, just amazing. Um, and different as night and day, but twins in everything but birth order. And I mean, it's truly, truly incredible. Well, the thing that popped up, and because his sister called me first to let me know. And then, of course, I called the kids. And then I, made my post. Hey, guys, this is what's going on. I have no idea where my feels are right now. I was also stupidly high, unwillingly, by the way, on the drugs that I had to take for the medicine or for the headache, which, by the way, might still be having a little bit of effect. Don't judge. Um, but the main thing that occurred to me is as I'm trying to articulate a post, and it's not going to be short. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be short, and it might not be on Love Bites Hard. But I was trying to articulate a post that kind of encompassed how to explain him. And the things that came to mind first were that, first of all, he didn't lie to me about his name when he first met me. He just didn't tell me his real name, which I know sounds weird. And then as I met him and I found out his real name, then he like came up with more names to be, which was weird. And it was like not even alter egos, just like superhero names, but superhero names like Iron Man and Tony Stark. Like we all know it's you, man, right? But this is just his new costume. I don't know. New audience. He was a musician, which is where I learned exactly how much money I could spend on musical equipment without actually being able to uh, play an instrument. It's a lot. It's like a lot, and I think that played into the alter egos and the stuff like that. But the thing that was so obvious, I guess, to me was that he was in so goddamn much pain, like all the time, so fucking much pain, and it was obvious. I mean, it's hey, look, there's a bleeding wound all over everywhere, and he's like, what blood? And of course, instead, it would lead to, oh, and now he's lost all this blood and turns into a raging, abusive lunatic. Because that's what happens. I was explaining to one of my lovely sons earlier today that I don't want to burn down the patriarchy for me. I want to burn the patriarchy down for him. And I want to burn the patriarchy down for my husband and for my ex-husband and for all of my sons and to my now deceased ex-husband. Because that's the bullshit that enabled him to stay so actively bleeding for so long that he never felt capable, he never felt entitled, he never felt worthy of getting or accepting the help that he needed. Now, he certainly tried a lot of different ways. I will not deny that. And there were times he was actually doing pretty amazing. They did not last because getting down to the core root of your pain takes a lot of vulnerability and audacity that I don't think he was ever comfortable taking. He could be audacious about so many other things. There was a stage show that we did back in the day where he was wearing my rubber corset on stage. There's a part of me that still believes quite firmly that he only married me for my wardrobe because we wore the same size. And I have many more stories about that, but I'm not going to share them here. And he was audacious and he was bold and he was sometimes downright brazen. And he was also a raging prick. And he was a racist. And he was what's that word when you Like, hey baby, what's that word when you like reinvent your history backwards? Retcon? I think it's retcon. He like retconned his yeah. He like retconned his history to objectify me as a fetish when I was in that marriage and I know that's not how shit went, just saying. But it's like what he had to do to justify having been there after the fact because things didn't work out. And I knew it was going to happen. I mean, of course it was. Um, but man, you do what you got to do. He was the nicest goddamn guy in the fucking bar. And he bought drinks for people. And when he didn't have any more money, people bought drinks for him because that's just the way it worked. He also had this very strange habit of getting mugged and then suddenly not being able to pay for things that he had committed to paying for. We all knew that getting mugged meant that he had fallen off the wagon and probably gotten real high. Dude, we know that's what's going on. You can just say you fell off the wagon, I guess. No? All right. And see, the thing is, there's no way that he could have gotten mugged because he studied like, I don't know, three or four different types of martial arts and wasn't terrible at it. Um, unless he was high or drunk. And sometimes even then, who knows? He didn't drive for years and years and years, lost his license, was never, ever, ever going to get it back. That tells you something about how many DUIs he had. But he was okay with that because he knew how dangerous he was going to be behind the wheel. I guess you have to respect that kind of self awareness. Um, but he also had like no capacity to understand how to treat the people that loved him the most. And sometimes I talk a little bit about, and I ultimately will talk more about how the about how children will act out more around mom and lose their shit when they get home and be complete fucking freaks because they're so stressed out at school and they're so overstimulated and just trying so hard not to get in trouble or whatever that that they only come home and act out around somebody that they feel safe with. And a lot of times I felt like the only reason he was so brutal on the people that loved him the most was because he was trying to feel safe. And he was kind of testing that spirit of, um, you'll never leave me. If you love me enough, you'll never leave. Yeah, well, let me close a couple of things here, guys. Let me see if that will reduce my overhead here just a bit. I don't want you guys to suffer for this, for my bad habits. But he was never one thing, and that's the upshot. You know, for all that, the first person that contacted me and said, wow, this must be really hard for you. I know how horrific your relationship was, but aren't you relieved? And I'm like, I can't answer that question. Um, I couldn't answer that question because no, I mean, he hadn't been a danger to me in years. Um, and if he became one, I was certainly going to deal with that shit right then and there. Again. But more recently, about 10 years ago, right before I moved back to Texas, I was living up in Wyoming, and we were talking, and he really, really, really wanted to sober up. He wanted to dry out. Well, uh, we'll get into the whole addiction thing at some point. I got a whole stream set up for that whole series. Um, he actually came up to Wyoming with me for about 6 weeks because there ain't shit to do out there. If you want a beer, your ass is gonna have to walk all the way down. I think it was about 7.5 miles to the closest bar. Oh, knock yourself out, sunshine. And I sure as hell wasn't driving him. Oh yeah, in the snow. Because I think at that point it was September, October. Yeah, it snows in September in Wyoming, by the way. That's why I don't live there anymore. I was like, we're done. We're done with that. Okay, we're finished with that part. And it worked. I mean, for the most part, right? As much as it can. Um, and then when I got to Texas, I think I sent him up about mid October. I got to Texas about mid November. And I think it was just a couple of weeks. He didn't have a place to live, which was, kind of a common occurrence. I saw it coming. So he, stayed with me for a while, and understand that during this entire time there was no hanky panky. There was no kissy titchy nothing. I'm like, yeah, nah. First of all, I was married to somebody else. And while that was not going well, it was a great excuse to not open up that can of worms again, because I knew as soon as I did, I'd be like, all right, fine, let's start the therapy. And then it'd be like, no, that's a ketchup sandwich I'd already eaten twice. Can't fool me a third time, mister. I may not learn my lesson quickly, but when I learn it. So he actually came up, after we moved into the place in Texas here, and he was actually here and helped us identify when the shortest started developing epilepsy. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. Ugh. Stupid error messages again. Apparently it's not a big deal, but we'll see. So, he was so goddamn sweet with those kids. And short stack was only like, it was just after his second birthday, So he was walking, but not really talking that great. I mean, he was talking okay. He was pretty good. But, that was kind of going weird. And he was just so goddamn sweet. It was precious. I gotta let me figure out a thing here. I gotta show you this picture. This is freaking awesome. So I believe quite firmly that he just kept this small little section of his soul um reserved for children. He could treat other people like the worst horrible pieces of crapola in the whole wide world. And when it came to children, he was purity. He would never let anything happen to them. He would never let anything, there was none of that. Yes, I do. And then I want to replace it with this. If it'll do it. Beautiful. I'm doing all this on the fly, guys, because obviously I was not expecting this. All right. So you got to see, obviously the X is the guy on the left. I mean, look at this face. Now here's the punchline to all this. That's the youngest, and that was when he was in surgery, or getting out of surgery, after his first corpus callosotomy, so that's split brain surgery, to help deal with the epilepsy. In this picture, short stack is about, I think he's 9. He was 9 years old. And, you know, so we were in the hospital for like almost 2.5 months, something like that. Things did not go well. And, you know, he developed a systemic infection, and the baby did. And this, you know, it just wasn't great, is what I'm saying, right? And this guy, remember, he doesn't have a freaking license. He doesn't drive. He had to take buses everywhere. And he sure as heck didn't make enough money for freaking taxi cabs. And what the heck's an Uber? An Uber would have required a smartphone. And his was like, he was still operating on a Nokia. Hey, Panda. How you doing, sweetheart? So this guy freaking takes buses for an hour to be able to visit with this kid for maybe an hour and a half. And then he has to leave again to get back to work later on that afternoon. Okay? This is the same guy that beat the crap out of me and tried to throw me off a second-story balcony. Like, no joke. Nobody is one thing. And he wasn't one thing either. You know, Rue asked me Rue asked me earlier, he's like, I do I remember this guy? Do I know this guy? And, you know, I pulled up all the pictures because, you know, he hung out with us in Wyoming. He was here when we first moved to Texas. He came to visit in the hospital. You know, there were a few times that that Rue got to see him, and he's like, yeah. And Rue says, oh yeah, I think I remember him. I'm like, yeah, you know, he did. He's like, Mom, I'm like, I'm not wrong. He did. You know, wanting to figure out how you feel about him isn't going to change that fact. He did. So I got on this weird kick as I'm showering and getting ready to, you know, for my hair to rebel. And I remembered, well, his sister asked me one thing. She asked how he wanted his body to be handled, because I was the only person that was with him for any period of time to have had that conversation. I'm like, oh, he wants to be cremated and kept in a Guinness bottle on the mantle. And she's like, I don't think we can do that. I'm like, I know. You know, just put an urn, just stick a Guinness sticker on it. It'll be fine. She's like, I was just thinking that. I'm like, I know, weird, right? And as I was like thinking of like what's the best sort of memorial thing anybody could do for him, I would say the most important thing is to be honest. You know, the guy was an asshole. He was a strangely lovable asshole when you weren't dating him, but he was still an asshole, or even, I guess, really related to him, because I know he put his family through some shit. Like his mama, his sisters, his, you know, he I tell you straight up, he doesn't want anybody saying what a great guy he was because he knows he wouldn't. Did he try? Yes. Sometimes just people's patience. But really, honestly, he did try. He didn't always know how to get there. He obviously didn't know how to get there all in one piece. And that's okay. I'm not going to um, I'm not going to pretend he was something he wasn't. He wasn't the great love of my life. He wasn't, I mean, he was the father of my gorgeous kids. Well, two of my gorgeous kids. All my kids are gorgeous. I might be a little bit biased there, I admit. Um, but ultimately the thing is, he wasn't just one thing. He was a weirdo. He was a nerd. I actually met him in the comic book store where I was working in like 92, maybe. Wow, I'm really freaking old. Yeah, it was 92. And he was not really good friends with personal honesty or accountability until long after the ship had sailed and the barn doors had been closed and the lunchbox had been latched. I don't know. But he was also, you hear me talk about how you can't be the same thing to two people because no two people have the same range of experience and perspective to be able to say, to be able to see you in the same way. So you are somebody different to every single person that you meet, except he was somebody different to every person he met several times. So he was a chef, and not just a, hey, I work in a restaurant and I am a chef, but he loved to cook for people. You're gonna hear, you are definitely, and this is for you, Talia. You will definitely hear me going on about food is love, and I might be sharing some recipes with you at some points in time. Just saying, but that's actually one of the things that I developed that idea. Not really when I was with him, but when I was near him, you know. And he gave a lot of bad advice, and he took his own even worse advice, but he tried. You know, it. He's one of those people that taught me that, oh, it is so possible to want to help and make things so much worse, so very, very much worse. But he was also a trickster, and absolutely, he'll remind me sometime to tell you about Minneapolis. But if I get enough, if I get enough outputs right now, I will tell you about Minneapolis. Um, but I am. I'm going to tell you this right now. Please don't take this the wrong way. I am not sorry that he's dead. In fact, I am deeply, deeply grateful that he has passed on because he was in so much pain for so much of his life that I think, you know what? Yeah, give the man a rest. Let him be at peace. I don't subscribe to the whole heaven hell thing. I believe that you get your nice little pass on. And personally, I think reincarnation makes the most sense from a scientific perspective, transmuting energy and all that. But I'm not sorry. I don't regret that he's dead. I mean, um, I can't even remember the last thing I said to him, but obviously it wasn't bad enough that I worry about it at night, given that, he was so adamant to take care of his baby bear, and his sous chef bear. It was probably something pretty sweet. Now, a couple of years before that, it was probably, if I see you again, I'm going to punch you in the face again. And he's pretty much always stayed at the top of my people I want to punch in the face list, just on principle. But, he deserves a rest, and that's okay. Do I still have a lot of anger and stuff to work through? Honestly, not really. I covered all that shit, man. We're done. Moved on. We're past that. Whatever. Excuse me. But it was a bit of a shock. Um, I guess just that he didn't have a hospital stay. He didn't. Nobody knew that he was sick if he had been sick. Honestly, I don't know if he would have told anybody if he was sick. He had he had a lot of friends all over everywhere. Not a lot of deep friends, maybe just a few. Everybody got what they needed out of him. And he gave everything that he could to everybody that he met, sometimes to a fault. I will not pour one out for you, my dear, because I don't drink. And somebody else is going to have to take that one for me. Sorry. But in spirit, pun fully intended. All right, cool. Um, so before I move on to the other things, because I've spent almost exactly the amount of time I planned on this, does anybody really want to hear the Minneapolis story? Just put it out there. If you want to find out, now is the time to ask. Yeah? All right, I got one. That's one out of some. Yeah? Yeah? One. I got one yes. It actually won't take that long, but it's hilarious. Okay. You know what? I'm happy with that. Because I just want to tell it. All right. So, a content warning, strippers, right? So, so the dude is up with, we'll say main bud, because we don't out people on the webternets, right? So the dude is with main bud, all right, his dude bud. They moved from Texas to Minneapolis to do music with we'll call him Goat just for fun. Y'all can figure it out later. And you saw a picture of the guy, right? Weirdest freaking charisma whenever he went to a strip club. Like, utterly freaking bizarre. Now, understand, the guy's my height. All right? Like 5'3", maybe? Maybe 5'4". If he, like, stood up really, really tall. Like I sometimes do. But I'm not doing it right now because I don't feel like it. Okay? Um, So he's like this teeny tiny little dude. He wore my size clothes. I wore size 2. Okay? So, weirdest freaking charisma. Whenever he went to a topless bar, he had all the girls all over him. He's the only guy I knew who could actually go to a strip club and leave with real phone numbers. And this wasn't an isolated incident. He did it freaking constantly. So So the dude and Main Bud, they go up to Minneapolis to make music with the goat. And one night they go out to this strip club, and you know, his Main Bud's like, dude, to the goat, like, dude, watch this. He's like, oh crap, really? And the dude picks up this chick, gorgeous chick, of course it is, covered in frickin' glitter. Because of course she's on the main stage and she is like so glittery, oh my god. And they're like, are you kidding me? Is is he really taking that girl? Oh my god. Now remember, all three of these guys, they're living together. Okay? Now, the dude's like in a, you know, a little futon on the floor, and Main Bud's like got a couch, and the goat's got his own room because it's his house, you know. But, the dude, he takes the chick home. He does what dudes do when they take the chick home. And the next day, he's like, crap, I can't wash the sheets. He just takes a shower to get all the glitter off of him because, you know, glitter gets freaking everywhere. And he's like, I'll just wash the sheets when I get home. And he goes to work, and he comes home, and he washes the sheets, and crap, he has to go to work again because that's how things do when you work a double at the at restaurants. And he comes home, you know, and he didn't get the glitter out. It was like, oh my god, it's awful. So he washes his sheets like every day, every other day, every couple of days, and he cannot get this fucking glitter out to save his fucking. He is covered in glitter. He's like, oh my god, I am never going home with a stripper again. I mean, that was a lie, but that's what he's thinking. And it's like, for 3 freaking weeks, he's washing his sheets every night, every other night. He's changing his sheets. No, this stuff was in the futon. He's like, what the shit, man? And finally, he gets it out. And it's just like, oh my god. He thought he was going to have to burn it, but he like did this weird thing with his double wash and a different laundromat and whatever. So I had called taxi, had been volunteered as taxi service at some point, and I had taken the dude from Dallas up to Minneapolis because I'm a masochist. And this is, oh golly, 20 years ago. Maybe 15? I don't remember. And he's telling me the story about how he's like sworn off the strippers. And I'm like, right? You sworn us. You're hilarious. And he's like, no, you won't believe it. Like, I could not get any of this glitter out. And the goat and Main Bud start busting up so freaking hard because every single day when the dude went to work, they were sprinkling more glitter in his bed. I mean, they found like the exact glitter she wore and everything. I'm like, oh my god, I have never met anybody who deserved that anywhere near as much as you. And he goes, you did what? That was really good. And I don't know what made him mad. I know. An oddly wholesome prank involving a stripper. And he's like, I don't know what's worse. The fact that you pulled that shit on me, or that I didn't catch it, or that I didn't think to pull that on anybody else. I'd love to. Yes, I love you too. No, not right now. I just, if there's any story in the whole wide world that this jerk should be known for, That's probably it. I don't think I can tell that at the memorial in front of his mother, although she'd probably think it was pretty funny. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's yeah. It's one of those things where it's you can't plan that. You just can't. But with this guy, the opportunity was bound to happen. Now I could go on and on telling stories about this guy. Oh my god, for years, because I know them all. Because the ones even that I wasn't involved with, I people love to tell me. It's like I knew him or something. It's so weird. All right, but I did promise you guys. Oh fuck's sake, really? Let me double check on something here. No, we're good. Okay.